Hey students, this is lesson 8.5. We're going to learn how to factor trinomials today. And specifically, you will learn how to factor trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So go ahead and do the review here, and I'll check back with you. All right, what is the factored form of x squared plus 9x plus 20? Now, the factored form is where you write the trinomial as a product of its factors. And so there's some two binomials multiplied together with a plus in the middle like that, that equal x squared plus 9x plus 20. So basically, we want to rewrite it into two binomial factors. Now, to help us figure out what the factors are, we're going to think about FOIL. These last two numbers here, there's going to be a plus in the middle. The last two numbers multiplied together will equal 20. So I need two numbers that have a product of 20. And also when I do FOIL, the first two terms multiplied together will equal this term, x squared. So I know that my first two terms are going to be x and x. And then I know my last two terms have to multiply together to equal 20. So it's going to be of this form. And so I can have numbers like 1 and 20, because 1 times 20 is 20. I could have 2 and 10. I could have 4 and 5. Those are my choices. Now the other thing that we have is that these two numbers added together, the outside two multiplied together plus the inside two multiplied together have to equal 9x. So basically what I'm saying here is I need two numbers with a product of 20 and a sum of 9. And that would be the 4 and the 5. Now if I write 4 and 5 here, and then just to check my work, x times x is x squared. Outside 2, that gives me 5x. Inside 2 gives me 4x. And the last two give me plus 20, and 4x plus 5x equals 20. So in factored form, I'm going to take x plus 4 times the quantity x plus 5. All right, let me try that. All right. In this one, the only difference is we have a minus in here, so we have to think about that if we were to use the FOIL method again here. Again, when we factor this, we're looking for numbers. Our first two definitely are going to multiply together to give us x squared, and our last two will be multiplied together to give us a positive 8. And then we need those two numbers to add up to negative 6. So to do this, we're going to need two negatives to get a positive 8 and then to have a sum of negative 6. So my possible factors are negative 1 and negative 8, negative 2 and negative 4, and that's really my only choices. Now, the product, of course, is positive 8 here and here. The sum of the two is negative 9 on this one and negative 6 on this one. And it's the negative 6, that one is the one that we need. So we're going to do x minus 2, x minus 4, and then I'll just check it to make sure it works. Outside 2 give me minus 4x, inside 2 give me minus 2x, and my last two give me plus 8. And negative 4x minus 2x is minus 6x plus 8, so it checks out. All right, you try that. Okay, here we have a form where we have two minuses in the answer, which that's going to change what we're looking for. Now we need two numbers that have a product of negative 18. So product of negative 18 and And they need to have a sum of -3. So to get -18, I need one positive and one negative factor. So it'd be like -2 and 9, or 2 and -9, maybe -3 and 6, or 3 and -6. Could also be -1 and 18, or 1 and -18. So those are my options. Now, all of these have a product of -18. Let's look at the sums. Here we have 7. If I add -2 plus 9, 2 plus -9 is -7. -3 plus 6 is 3. 3 plus -6 is -3. And that's the one I want. So now I'm going to write my factors as x plus 3 and x minus 6. Then I'm just going to check my work. X times x is x squared. X times -6 is -6x. 3 times x is 3x. And 3 times -6 is -18. And if I add -6x plus 3x, I get minus 3x minus 18. So that checks. All right, you try that. I should probably mention here that I could eliminate some of these possibilities because I know that this term has to be a negative, so my negative number has to have a greater absolute value. And that's, in other words, if I get rid of the signs, the negative one has to be bigger. I can cross out anywhere that's not true, like this one. That one's definitely be a positive when I add it, so it's that one. And so is that one. So go ahead, you try that. All right, we're going to apply this idea. It says the area of a picture frame is given by the trinomial x squared plus 6x minus 16. The length of the frame is x minus 8. What is the width of the picture frame? So we have some rectangle, and I'll just put the area is this. So I'll put that inside, meaning that space is the area. And it says the length is x plus 8. We need to know the width, which is some missing number, w. So we know that w, whatever that is, times x plus 8 has to equal the area, which is given by, so width times length equals area, and substitute the values in here, plus 6x minus 16. And we know that in order to get a trinomial, we would have to multiply this binomial by another binomial. So I know w is going to be in this form. And I also know that that my first two terms multiply together. My two x's, or my x times this has to equal x squared. So I'm just going to know that that's going to be x. And I also know that this term, this 8 times this term, has to equal -16. So what number times 8 is equal to -16, and that would be a -2. And then I'm just going to check to make sure the middle term works, and we get that by multiplying these two, which is 8x, and these two, which is -2x, and when we add those together, that works out, we get 6x. You try that. All right, one last problem here, factoring a trinomial in 2 variables. Not too much difference here, it's just that in order to get this term, we're going to need two things multiplied together that give us 6y squared now. And to get that y squared, we can just put a y in each of those. So actually we need -6y squared. And then the sum of those two has to be 1xy, -1xy. So we know that our negative term has to have greater net absolute value. So here are my possibilities: -6y and 1y. Or we could do -3y and 2y. Those are my only choices. Now the sum of those have to equal 1xy, or negative 1xy, and that would be these two. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So I'm going to write x minus 3y, and I'm going to write x plus 2y, and then I'm just going to check that. X times x is x squared. X times 2y is 2xy. Negative 3y times x is negative 3xy. And the last two, negative 3 times positive 2 is negative 6y squared. And these two add up to negative 1xy, so that works. All right, you try that. All right, go ahead and do the lesson check. We'll talk about this next time we meet in class.